Does Sheldon Keefe deserve to be on the hot seat right now, following his decision to start an injured Matt Murray ahead of Ilya Samsonov, which ultimately ends up with Samsonov having to take the starter's net to start the game against the Senators, and his constant decision to go back with Morgan Rielly as the defenseman on the first power play and to continue to play him in the first D pairing alongside Justin Holl? We will debate if Sheldon Keefe deserves to be on the Maple Leafs hot seat. What's up, Leafs fans, and welcome back to Leafs Digest. If you're new here, or if you're coming back but you haven't hit that subscribe button, please make sure you do so. It takes about 2 seconds to click that subscribe button. About 50% of the people who watch these videos aren't subscribed to this channel, so if you could help us out, click subscribe. You can also turn on notifications by clicking that bell. You'll get notified every time we go live or more videos like this are posted. That would be greatly appreciated. You can also throw a like on this video. That helps us out as well, so thank you for that. Thanks for watching. Now let's get into some of the topics for today. Let's start with the most important one and what went on last night with the starting goaltender for the Toronto Maple Leafs, Matt Murray, and why this ultimately may start to fall on Sheldon Keefe's shoulders. So, Matt Murray, for those who don't know, ahead of the game against the Ottawa Senators, was scheduled to go. He was in the starter's net in the morning. He was in the starter's net in warm-up. He left the ice first, and then they come out for the game, and Ilya Samsonov leads the team out of the tunnel as he is the starting goaltender. This left people with a lot of confusion, wondering if he got injured in warm-ups from a William Nylander shot. That appeared to be not the case, but we didn't get to find out until post-game when Elliotte Friedman tweeted out this. Toronto coach Sheldon Keefe told reporters Matt Murray had something that flared up, making the goalie unavailable. Keefe added it is not related to Murray's adductor injury from earlier this season. Okay, so it's not related to his adductor injury earlier in this season. It's not something that he had that actually caused him to miss time earlier in the year. Maybe that helps clear things up. Something happened in the warm-up. It wasn't the shot from William Nylander, but something all of a sudden was wrong. How could anybody have known that was going to be the case? Sheldon Keefe, for me, at that point, off the hook. It wasn't until this morning, when this tweet came out from Jonas Siegel, that I started to question things. Jonas tweeting, Matt Murray has been dealing with an ankle injury, Sheldon Keefe says. The Leafs are awaiting more tests on Murray to determine the extent of the injury. Ilya Samsonov will start again against the Capitals on Sunday. This is the tweet here that has me start to question things. Okay, he flared something up, maybe it's unexpected, you don't know, but then to come out the next day and say that he's been dealing with an ankle injury, which everyone has known about here, this is where I start to question what the hell was he doing being the guy to go in the starter's net. Ilya Samsonov had already started 4 consecutive games, last night being his 6th consecutive game that he's played in, as he had to go in replacement of Matt Murray in the game against the Florida Panthers, in which he got pulled, and Samsonov ultimately ends up leading the team to a win. Now, looking at this schedule, you may sit here and go, well, why would you continue to run a guy out there? Well, 2 factors. 1, he's been playing incredibly. Why would you take the net away from him if he's been on this role? And 2, which supports number 1, you only had 3 games left before the All-Star break, and you had time in between each of them. Played on Wednesday night, you have a day off, then you play on Friday night, then you have a day off, you play on Sunday, then you have 2 days off, you play on Wednesday, and then you have an extended period of time off with the All-Star break looming around the corner. This guy would have only had to go in 3 more games, in which he was already anticipated to be playing in 2 of those 3. Why not just give him the 3? So, ultimately, when it comes down to Samsonov not getting the net, he's been on a heater. You're trying to figure out who your number 1 goalie is going to be going into the playoffs. Why not give the guy who's been playing incredibly and helping this team get wins and actually saving them from a loss against the Panthers, why not give him the opportunity to go again? Now, added on top of this, which makes me more adamant that he should have been the guy in the net there last night and should have been the guy anticipated to go in the net, is the fact that they knew Matt Murray was dealing with an ankle injury. Why, if you know someone is not 100%, force feed them into the net ahead of a time where you're going to have an extended break? Auston Matthews, earlier in the day, was announced out with a knee sprain in which he's going to be missing the next 3 weeks minimum. Obviously, this team just doesn't want to risk anything. Give him some time to recover, bounce back, extended period of time off here. It lines up perfectly with the All-Star break. Why not use that time to rehab a guy like Matt Murray, who you know is dealing with an ankle issue? The other part of this is, knowing Matt Murray's history, he's had a track record of pulling the chute on games. I'm not going to sit here and say he's faking this by any means. I don't think he is, but the point being, we've seen him not 100% say, forget it, I'm not going. You put Samsonov in a tough situation where he's going to mentally prepare as the backup that night, doesn't get to go through his normal game day starter routine where he would go in net for maybe morning skate or then during the warm-up and take the same reps that he normally would. It's a different mental state. So you put him in a tough spot, force-feeding Murray into this lineup with only 3 games, of which he's only going to play one of them, and then have an extended break. Now, I will look at the contrarian side to this where you can sit there and say, well, that's a lot of time off for a goaltender. He's going to miss all this time where he hasn't played while Samsonov was in there, and then you're going to go into the All-Star break. That could be hard for him to bounce back. Maybe so, but he did it earlier in this season when he suffered his initial injury, and then he came back and he played incredibly when he returned to the net. So I don't personally have any concern over Matt Murray's rest versus rust argument. I think that this is a guy who thrives with some of that rest, and this would have been a perfect opportunity to give it to him. Hey, you stunk in the game against Florida. Samsonov is flying right now. Your ankle is hurting you. Take a break, reset. We'll come back after the All-Star break where we face some of the bottom teams in the league, including Chicago and Columbus, and I believe Ottawa again in that period of time. Those can be the games where we can see if you can get an opportunity to get some confidence and some health back and go back in there then. So ultimately, this to me was a mismanagement of players from the coaching side. I don't know if this ultimately lies on Sheldon Keefe, if this is something to do with the goalie coaches as well, whoever's involved, but this from the coaching staff was a mismanagement of players, 100%. Matt Murray should never have been announced as the starter for that game against the Senators. Samsonov should have just been given the runway to finish out the rest of this time before the All-Star break, put it in his hands, let him run with it, take the break, get Matt Murray healthy, then come back after the fact. There is no need to jam guys into this lineup over things like that. Murray hasn't been great over the last little while as well, mixing in, the losses against Seattle, the loss to Boston, and then he was pulled after being down 4-2 to Florida. He did have a couple good wins, the 6-2 win over Philly at a .944 save percentage, and the 2-1 win over Nashville, which he arguably won them that game with a .970 save percentage. But outside of that, the last month or so of Matt Murray's play has been a little bit rocky. He's injured. Get him healthy. Don't force him in the net, and don't take it away from a guy who has been on a roll and incredible at home with now a slight little blemish because he was put in a bad spot and the team did not come out ready to play in front of him for that game against the Ottawa Senators. Mismanagement of players there, in my opinion. Now, the other part of this, which is piling on for Sheldon Keefe, if you join the Maple Leafs Digest live streams after games, which I encourage people to do, you can set notifications for when those come out. We were talking about what's been going on with Morgan Rielly. And if you know anything about the Leafs right now, if you are on social media, people are basically standing outside with their their pitchforks and flames and torches, getting ready to go riot at Scotiabank Arena for why Morgan Rielly is still on power play 1, still on lineup number 1, still playing with Justin Holl, or for some people, why he's on this team at all. Now, I understand why he's on this team. I don't think that it's a problem with him being on this team, but I think that his role should definitely be adapted, and I don't think that this coaching staff is willing. I don't know if this has something to do with the fact that he's being paid the amount of money that he is, and they feel like he has to be in that spot. If this is maybe they don't feel like he can play with anybody else, so he has to play with Justin Holl because the other options aren't as good. I don't know if that's their decision or if that's what they're seeing. I don't know if maybe this has to do with the fact that they think Morgan Rielly, if they continue to put him in that role, they will just break him into the point of where he was last year and what they want him to be. But whichever one of those it is, it's not working right now because Morgan Rielly has struggled supremely in that first pairing. He has not been great defensively. He's never been great defensively throughout his career, but especially this season. And typically, he's had the crutch of, I'm this good on offense, I contribute this much to the power play, and it hasn't been there this year. So far, we've seen Morgan Rielly go through now 44 games played for him, where he has not scored a goal dating back to last year. He's struggling offensively. He doesn't shoot the puck. He's being force-fed into that power play. And to continue to put him out there is a complete mistake. You have other guys on this team, like a Timothy Liljegren, who should be utilized more and leaned on more, given how good he's been this season. He's scored a couple of goals already. He's offensively minded. He's creative. He's good puck mover. He's good moving his feet. There's a lot of things you can lean on with a guy like him or a guy like Rasmus Sandin to go in and fill that role anyways. Maybe it's going to take a little bit of a, hey, Morgan, sit down and watch these guys to kick him in the pants and get him going back to where he normally should be. So ultimately, I think that is a mistake. Now, the other part of this, which is going to be the worst part for everyone, is obviously there's a huge divide in Leafs Nation amongst how we feel about Justin Holl. I'm on the side, I don't think he's that great, but I don't think that this Leafs staff wants to have him out of the lineup. Okay, you don't want to have him out of the lineup. Putting him on the top pairing with Morgan Rielly, a guy who's already struggling defensively, is a terrible decision all around. So, we're looking at this with the Morgan Rielly spot. I don't know if they can't trust him with other people. I'm not sure what it is, but having those guys together is a wrong decision, first of all, and having them be the top pairing is also a huge mistake given the guys that they have to play against in the most important situations that they do. It's obviously going to be temporary until TJ Brody comes back, but regardless, this is the wrong decision here for the Leafs, and these fall back to Sheldon Keefe and some of the decisions he's been making and managing with these guys. I don't know if this comes from the goaltending coaches or the defensive coaches in the decision of Murray and the decision of Holl and Rielly, but ultimately, he's in charge of those guys, and he has final say. And to continue to allow this to go on, it is a massive mistake. Now, the ultimate question here is Sheldon Keefe on the hot seat? Should he be on the hot seat? I don't know if hot seat may be the right word in terms of a guy who could potentially be fired, if that's your frame of reference for that phrase for coaches. But what I will say is some of these decisions have been pretty poor in terms of putting guys out there or mixing up the lines, how he's done some of that. There is some things that need to be fixed, and some of them become problems that we've seen in years past. Refusing to change the power play, terrible decisions. We get into the playoffs, and ultimately the power play ends up falling off and becoming a huge problem. Why not mix things up? Why not give it a change and give somebody else a different look? Then you fall to the defense. No, the defense is not the reason that we've had problems in years past in terms of why we've lost the playoffs, but ultimately they're not a reason to help us win right now, and to continue to make decisions like this, force-feeding guys into spots, it can only hurt you in the long run. So some of these things need to drastically change before the Maple Leafs can get themselves into a good spot where we may feel comfortable that they actually could finally win a playoff series. So does Sheldon Keefe deserve to be on the hot seat in the typical sense of NHL coaches who could potentially be fired? No, but does he deserve to be on the hot seat in terms of what the hell are you thinking? Get it together here, man. Yes, I do think so, because some of these decisions are just insane to me and need to be changed. Anyways, Leafs fans, let me know in the comments below your thoughts. Let me know what you think about the Murray-Samsonov situation, and then ultimately about the Holl-Rielly pairing and Rielly's usage on power play number 1. Let me know in the comments below. You can also hit like on this video, subscribe to this channel. That is greatly appreciated. But thank you to everyone who tuned in right now. Look forward to seeing everyone in the next video. Turn on those notifications so you get notified when it drops. Keep believing.